Hello again, everyone. The subject of this video is what happened to the Moranbong Band. They were incorporated into the state-merited course. And why did that happen? Why were they captured by the state-merited course, this huge big orchestra thing? And they're embedded in them. They just had a New Year's Eve concert. They just published that on YouTube. And there they are, right in the middle. The number has been reduced to 9 in this particular one. There's a missing viola. There's only 3 strings up front, 2 violins and a cello. And then there's only 1 keyboard. And a friend of mine pointed out that they're sharing a grand piano. The Moranbong Band piano player has to share it with the piano player from the state-merited course. But what happened? And well, I'm just going to give you a short and simple answer that I mean, no one knows, I don't think. But I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of what I think happened, and I'll probably expand on it later. But I remember reading a couple of years ago somewhere that the Moranbong Band was extremely popular in North Korea. The North Korean people loved those girls. And whenever they were on television, the streets would empty. Everybody would stop what they're doing, close their shops, they'd go inside and they'd watch the concert. This is a big, big deal. And it's a lot, in a way, like analogous to the Beatles, I like to say. Now, the analogy doesn't hold up for very long, but it does a little bit. It helps you understand what I think is the social dynamics, what's going on. The Beatles came onto the scene. I mean, they started, I think, in 1957 and 1962, but they mostly played in Germany. But they came on the scene in 1963. And they were only around for 3 years doing public concerts. And then they retreated into the studio. But from 1963 to 1966, they were extremely popular. And then in March of 1966, John Lennon gave an interview to Marion Cleave from the London Evening Standard. She'd always hung around with the Beatles a lot, and she'd written a lot of articles about them. So here he tells her, he says, "We're more popular than Jesus." And when that made it to the United States, it was all over. People just dumped all over the Beatles. I mean, I remember it well. People burned the Beatles records. Radio stations stopped playing the Beatles because the Beatles, John Lennon says, the Beatles are more popular than Jesus. That was the end of the Beatles. The Rolling Stones never made that mistake. They're still touring in their 70s, my age and older. But yeah, 3 years. And I think this may be, now see, when the Beatles came out, it was like the Moranbong Band. The Moranbong Band, they came up just, the people were in North Korea were still suffering the effects of the arduous march, the famine, and then the currency manipulation, devaluation, that hit them really hard. So people were just struggling. When they came up, here comes these beautiful girls playing wonderful music. Same thing happened to the Beatles. When the Beatles first started playing, they were still rationing. I mean, into the early 60s, I believe, there was still World War II rationing going on in the UK. It was gray and cold and wet. And when the Beatles came, all of a sudden, everything just burst into color. You know, you had Twiggy and all these psychedelic things, and you know, everything was just Technicolor. And it's a coincidence, but it happened. So the Beatles had the same effect on England that the Moranbong Band did on North Korea. And then when Lennon says, well, we're more popular than Jesus, that was the end. Not the end in England, but the end in the big market in the United States. And they could no longer tour and make the money. But they made records for a while. And they sold a bunch of them. But yeah, probably what happened to the Moranbong Band, somebody said, when the streets are being emptied, somebody said, yeah, we're more popular than Kim Jong-un. And that may well be what happened. See, in North Korea, nobody can be, no one, no thing can be higher than the supreme leader. I mean, that's why they call him the supreme leader, because he's the highest. It's like a king. You know, nobody can be above the king. This is why I always refer to Kim Jong-un as more of a monarch than a dictator. It's two different characters. But nobody can be above the king. I mean, in Thailand, people go to jail all the time for insulting the king. It happens all the time. I mean, somebody went to jail for insulting the king's dog in Thailand. So nothing is above the king. And Kim Jong-un, in my opinion, is a king. He's a monarch. So it's probably what happened. But they couldn't get rid of the Moranbong Band altogether, because that they would be admitting that, you know, I mean, Kim Jong-un selected them, hand-selected them. So if they got rid of them altogether, well then, that would be an admission of a mistake. Well, we shouldn't have created that group. So what he did is he put it inside the state-merited course, and now they're within a group, and they're no longer as popular. So people are no longer wildly applauding. They no longer, I mean, there was maybe a little bit when they appeared by themselves a couple places on tour, but, and they might appear again. Maybe they have appeared, and we don't know about it, appeared as a separate entity, and we don't know about it, or maybe they did one and I didn't catch it. But mostly they're inside the state-merited course. And so, you know, that could be what happened. It could also be professional jealousy on the part of the people of the state-merited course, you know, the old traditionalists. They said, you know, why are these people stealing our thunder? I thought that was it for a while, and it could be, may well be part of it. But I don't know. I mean, you know. But yeah, I think that's what happened. The same thing happened to the state-merited course that happened to the Beatles. Or the same thing happened to the Moranbong Band, I should say, that happened to the Beatles. You know, you can't be more popular than Jesus. You can't be more popular than Kim Jong-un. And just not working. It's not going to happen. So anyway, I don't know. Leave your comments, opinions, and so on in the space below. And tell me what you think. And like I say, I'll talk a little bit more about this at length later and in other aspects of it, because the Moranbong Band fascinates me. I'm going to do a video, probably the next video I'm going to do on the Moranbong Band is to explain how North Korea didn't know what they had in the group. How they didn't know how valuable this group was to the state. They had clueless, no idea. And they just kind of tossed them away. That's a subject for probably the next video. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.